Launching into our event, does bias only create obstacles in our career? Now, I have 3 questions for everyone, and they are raise your hand style questions. So, raise your hand if you've ever had to purchase a uniform from the opposite genders, or of opposite gender. Raise your hand. Everyone look around. See the show of hands. Okay. Moving on. Number 2. Have you ever been in a meeting and being the only one of your gender and been singled out and apologised to for their French or their bad language? Raise your hand, look around. I can say there's about 90% of you that have all raised your hands now. And the last one, the last question. Have you been... one second. Have you been privy to gendered language? So, for example, in an email chain, having been CC'd or included and the headline is gents or gentlemen. Have you ever had that happen to you? Have again, look around, see the hands. Amazing. I'm going to hand over to Trang, who is the amazing events champion who's put together all of the content for today. And she will introduce the amazing panel and debate team. So welcome, Trang.
Good morning, everyone. Ooh. I hope you all enjoy your breakfast, and I want to say thank you so much for coming out this morning, and I hope it is worth your while. My name is Trang. I'm a community member with WEDAC. I'm also a civil engineer with Oricon in the buildings team, so if you need anything civil, I'm your person. Before we begin our debate, I would just also like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today. I pay respects to both the Jagera and the Turrbal people and their elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the hope, dream, traditions and cultures of Aboriginal land. For International Women's Day this year, we worked towards the theme, Break the Bias. When I heard the theme, I was like, what? Because what does break the bias mean to me? The idea for this debate came from my own personal experience. As you may see, I look Asian. I also identify as female, which means I get questions like, where are you from? How old is your husband? Which means I also get the classic, you're the diversity hire. Or my favorite, the diversity unicorn. On the flip side, I have also been invited to meetings with senior people because people assume that I'm Asian, I'm also stereotypically quiet and submissive, and how wrong they were. I was able to contribute to meetings, assert myself as a technical expert, but also connect with my senior leaders. And to me, I wondered, how can bias help, but also hinder my career? Even though our debaters will speak from their personal experience, it is collectively that we are able to change and create. I would like to emphasize that our debaters are talking about discrete events in their career. We shouldn't extrapolate and conclude some women have had it easy, because that's a lie. This debate is to challenge you to look outside of your own perspective and beyond, and be able to acknowledge, appreciate, and amplify different experiences that sit outside your own. Before we get into the thick of it, if you get offended by the words wanker, dickhead, fuck, prick, and arsehole, brace yourself, because those words may feature this morning. So the question is, has bias only created obstacles in our careers? Introducing our speakers, hopefully they're not drinking coffee, excellent. I would like to introduce the affirmative team, where biases has hindered them in a point in their career. Please come to the stage. Christina Hayes, a civil engineer at GHD. Jennifer Hodgkins, superintendent and project consultant at Trace Project Management. And Sophie Litherland, associate planner at Willow Tree Planning. Speaking for the negative, where bias has actually created opportunities in their career, Alia Kota, strategy manager at ADG Digital Group. Candice Lamb, Global ERG Leader at KBR. And Shireen Hoffman, Principal at Thompson Anson. That's the kind of pep you need for the morning. Woo. Our debaters will speak for 7 minutes each, telling us about their experiences of bias, with the affirmative and the negative speakers alternating. I will confess, this is my first time moderating a debate, so please be easy and patient with me. You ready? And so we're going to start.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Last week, I listened to a TED Talk by Sarah Sanford, who is a gender equity consultant in Washington. Looking beyond the wage gap, Sarah described how women are more underrepresented in leadership, receive less access to senior leaders, and are leaving the fastest growing sectors, including tech, STEM, etc., at rates of 45% higher than men, where the women have cited culture as their primary reason for leaving. Studies from the Harvard Business Review have revealed that businesses are investing $8 billion worth of diversity training a year. These same studies reveal that the training is not working because the key systemic issue is unconscious gender bias. Unconscious gender bias is defined as unintentional and automatic mental associations based on gender, which stems from traditions, norms, cultures, values, and/or experience. Automatic associations feed into decision-making, enabling a quick assessment of an individual according to gender and gender stereotypes. Note that gender bias is more prominently visible within professional settings. We, the affirmative team, believe that unconscious bias has created obstacles for women in their careers. So today, as first speaker, I'll be talking more about this with my own experiences. Our second speaker, Jennifer, will be talking about how businesses and industry believe they're doing their part to tackle their unconscious bias, but are going about it sometimes in the wrong way. And finally, Sophie, our third speaker, will be talking about how bias has created obstacles for women with children, and will sum up our case. So my first point is that women are severely underrepresented in the design and construction industries, which is limiting our career pathways. Women have a wealth of knowledge and skills to bring to the design and construction sectors, yet we make up less than 12% of the Australian workforce. Even smaller is the number of women in the front lines of a construction worksite, approximately 1 for every 100 employees. And this figure has shifted little over the last few decades, despite the increased awareness and push to empower and value females in these industries. This time last year, I spent approximately 3 months in a FIFO site providing construction supervision at a dam site in Queensland. When I first started, I was one of 10% of females on site, and this included the engineers, the geologists, the administration, and office support personnel. By the end of my 3 months, this had dropped down to 7% of females. One of the problems is that the conditions in many workplaces tend to favour particular types of men and discourage many other talented people. I recall when I first started studying engineering at university, how horrified I was that one of the traditional old mining buildings did not have female bathrooms. Instead, they'd actually placed a paper sign over one of the male bathrooms indicating this was to be used for females. And this is only going back around less than 10 years ago. So gender bias also prevents women's ability to excel in their careers and reach upper level roles. You might have heard the saying that for a woman to be in a leading position, she needs to be twice as good as her male contemporaries. Of the 500 largest Fortune US companies, ranked by total revenues, only 8.2% have female CEOs. And even less is the number of women occupying board seats in these companies. I recall attending a client workshop in my first year as an engineer, so about 5 years ago, and was the only female in the room of 30 people. was not only a daunting experience, most of the men were also older and white men as well. Unfortunately, this did not seem strange to me at the time, and this was almost sort of preconditioned into my DNA with sort of a similar experience at uni when you'd only be maybe one of 10 females in the room of 150, in the lecture. For this workshop, I was tasked with writing the minutes. Quite a lot of professional women have shared similar experiences. So why is it assumed that the only woman in the room or involved in a project is the one who should take on the admin duties? What's even more unsettling is the assumption that women are somehow more equipped to do these things than their male counterparts. My second point is that women are rising to the moment and taking on the extra work that comes with this and are now significantly more burned out, increasingly more so than men, leading to women feeling undervalued in the workplace. The latest Women in the Workplace report from McKinsey Group revealed that compared with men at the same level, women are doing more to support their teams and advance diversity, equality, and inclusion efforts. Yet this critical work is going unrecognised and unrewarded by companies, which has concerning implications, including the risk of losing these women in the workforce. McKinsey also stated that 1 in 3 women said they have considered downshifting their career or leaving the workforce this year, compared with 1 in 4 who said this at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, 4 in 10 women have considered leaving their company or switching jobs, and a high employee turnover in recent months suggests that many of them are following through. I recently read a book called Rushing Woman's Syndrome, written by Dr. Libby Weaver. I'm not sure if any of you have read it as well, but explains how so many women are tired yet wired, living in a state of unrelentless urgency. There's never enough time in the day, and the to-do list just never seems to be ticked off. The constant need to rush, this feeling that we're never doing enough, is causing significant health problems in women. Personally, this book resonated with me on so many levels. During the height of the pandemic around September 2020, my team was really busy. I don't think we'd quite worked out the whole work from home situation, and it was so easy just to keep working and churning the hours. And on top of that, doing your personal social life, the extra committees you're involved in, all those additional work roles that you do. I was living in a constant state of rush, so much so that I actually started getting heart palpitations. And this was the sign. This was my body telling me I had put it through too much pressure. It was the tipping point I needed. And also, unsettling enough, I spoke to a lot of females at this time, and they also revealed they'd experienced similar issues. They were in some stressful environment, and it had caused these health issues. So I learned to delegate, prioritise tasks more efficiently, learn to switch off, but it's not an easy thing, and we can't always do it. So in conclusion, bias is prevalent in every aspect of our lives. However, these biases can form us to form prejudice against others, which allows for inequalities to form. And I'll leave you with a quote or a stat from the World Economic Forum's Gender Gap Report, which revealed that women work nearly an hour longer than men every day when both paid and unpaid tasks are taken into account. So this figure is based on access to parental leave, flexible work, and affordable high-quality childcare. It's clear that gender biases play a significant role in women's ability to excel in their careers and reach upper-level roles. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Who here felt heard when she said admin duties? Because who here has organised a morning tea? Oh, yeah. I see you all. Speaking for the negative, we'll be starting with Aaliyah, the Strategy Manager at ADG Group. Thank you.
Before I get started and share my experience and rebut to all the stats and all the obstacles that Christina shared, I want you to imagine this first. Imagine you're walking down a path. It's a magical golden path. It's got promise of hope, it's of sunshine, of happiness, and a brighter future. You've purchased a map, a very expensive map, to go down this path. You've been promised that you'll make it through the path and it'll lead you along the way. You're excited, you're energised, and you can't wait to see what the future holds. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you see a brick wall. It was unexpected, there was no warning, and this giant brick wall is in your way, so you can't move forward. Now you can stand there and you feel stuck behind it. You can wait for someone else to knock the wall down, because it wasn't on the map after all. You can fight it. You can see if you can knock it down yourself, exhaust yourself with blood, sweat and tears, and see if you can make it through. Or you could look at it, you could think about it, and you could strategically think of a way that you could forge a new path forward. So in this example, the path is obviously your career, the map is your education, and the wall is bias. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Bias exists. I have it myself with things that I can't control, whether unconscious or active. And it's a reality of the world that we face and the career paths that we have. And if we are to only look at bias as an obstacle and nothing else, how are we going to move forward? Are we going to just stay behind the brick wall and be stuck? So today, my team is on the affirmative, and we're going to argue that bias not only creates obstacles in your path, it can also create opportunities, but it depends on yourself and how you disarm it, but more than that, how you move forward from the obstacle. I'm going to share with you today how I forged a path forward for my career by using bias and disarming it, taking something negative into something positive, and forging my identity and personal brand. So I'm not sure how many of you know me, but when I started in this industry, I started off on this golden path towards becoming a structural engineer, and I wanted to shape the world and design and create city landscapes. But when I got into the industry, I was told that I was too creative to be an engineer. Apparently, I cared too much about the design and the aesthetic and how it looked. Apparently, I cared too much about refining the design to make it the best solution possible. And then I had to just get on with it, get the drawings out, and keep the client happy. Then, as I grew up into a couple more roles, I was told that I was too young to manage projects, despite having a project management degree. That apparently I didn't have enough years of experience to show clients that they could be confident in me. Apparently I was too energetic, I was too young to show that I could deliver a project of that size. Then it was, you're too emotional, you're too soft, or you care about too many fluffy stuff, whatever that means. To be a good leader, you have to be stronger. The team has to think that you can lead them down a path, and they need to know that you are not soft or weak, and that you are talking about things other than that. So I did. For a while, I listened, and I tried really hard to fit in because I was really ambitious, and I wanted to make things work. I took away all the things that people told me that I was too much of, despite being that myself, and I started to take the creativity out of me. So I started using 3 colours instead of the 10. I started dressing more like an engineer, the blue shirt and the jeans, because apparently that's an engineer's uniform. I put my head down, I earned my years of experience until I could practice project management. I tried, keyword, to hide my emotions, being less enthusiastic and excited and holding myself back from talking about the fluffy stuff. Being psychological safety, which happens to be very important these days. But then it got too much. I was exhausted. I spent so much of my own energy trying to hide aspects of myself, but also I was thinking about what everyone was thinking about me. It was draining. I was defeated, and then I became depressed. While I couldn't control what other people thought of me, and it took a lot of introspection and personal development to get to this point, what I did realize was I can only control the controllable. So I can sit there and I could be bogged down by this insurmountable task of all the obstacles, of all the biases that come your way. Or I decided I could start to think of how I could use these biases or these labels or identities that people were giving me and how I could use it to my own advantage. I pretty much said, fuck it. If people are going to keep telling me that I'm too creative, I'm going to figure out how I can do something with it that is too creative. So there began my journey of taking every label that was obstructive or someone told me that I couldn't do something, and I figured out a way or found a thing that was or that needed you to have that skill to be able to do it. So while I was too creative to be an engineer, I was most certainly creative enough to create an innovation framework for our business and roll it out across 8 offices without having any experience in business management. A framework that still exists today and has 50 plus R&D projects and has become a core part of our culture. While I was too young and I was too enthusiastic, and I seemed like I didn't have enough years of experience to be a project manager. I was invited along to strategy and business planning events, invited along to provide the millennial perspective in key decisions, and had exposure to our senior leadership team and our board and formed relationships with them, but also demonstrated to them my strategic capabilities and diverse perspectives and ways of thinking. That exposure has led to my now role of strategy manager, where I obviously do a lot of strategy, but it also allows me to now facilitate workshops for our management team. And none of this would have happened if I hadn't embraced that bias, that label, that identity, that you're too creative, that's become a part of me. Well, it always has, but it's become a part of my identity. So I'll leave you this. While there's all these stats and all these biases and problems out there, we don't disagree. We all experience them, and it's not just a female gender thing. There's so many different facets and elements to it. What I do think is we can't be burdened by it. We can't hold ourselves back from opportunities because it exists. We have to figure out a way to move forward because it's a part of the world and it's a reality. I broke the bias by taking the power away from it. I showed people that if you embrace it, that they will start to embrace you. So as I've recently heard in a podcast, when you fight something, people want to come on the attack and they want to fight against you. But when you embrace something, they're disarmed, they don't have a fight, and they honestly just figure out how to embrace it because they don't get a reaction out of you. So today, I'll leave you with this. The next time you face a bias, an obstacle, something that's awful, something that's unfair, something that you had no control over someone perceiving about you, I want you to think about this. How can you create an opportunity to forge the bias into your personal brand?
Thank you. I'm all here about embracing the too much, the true everything. I'd like to introduce Jennifer Hodkins for the affirmative.
Bias removes the brick wall, but what's actually on the other side? And I see the cameras are out, so I probably should open this movie intro with a bit of a disclaimer. This script is meant to be for educational purposes only. Any resemblance to real persons living and dead or dead is purely coincidental, somewhat coincidental. The script does not purport to represent my company's views, yada yada. No people were harmed in the making, and actually that one's not true. I'm Jennifer, and I'm not going to delve into my credentials. If it's important to you, there's a platform called LinkedIn for that. What I will tell you about myself is that I've been in the construction industry working close to blue collar for at least 20 of my 25 years. All of you, Lan, I know I look fabulous. I've been around from the time when women were banned on site after 6 p.m. because the men were going to drink alcohol and talk shop. That was the 90s. I was around when women were still legally barred from some establishments, and the Northerners Club I remember quite fondly because that's where the arbitration meetings were held, and no one thought, obviously, there would ever be female arbitrators. That's 2000. I was around when women's applications to work on some construction sites were rejected on the grounds that there were no separate toilet facilities for women. 2010, the shit they pull. Not that men's toilets and women's toilets are different in form and function. And before you think that the toilets should be separated, because men pee all over toilet seats, as we know, what some men do to women's toilets to let you know you're not welcome on site. And just to cover off the rest of your concerns, since the advancement of the internet and mobile phones, I've actually been sent more dick pics than I ever would have seen at a site urinal. This is our decade. I'm here because I wanted the opportunity for you to hear directly from a woman who has worked grassroots within blue-collar construction and the rail industries. I want to break through the propaganda you have been fed about bias changing the environment for women for the better. I want to talk you past the fluff and marketing crust and fast forward, or actually fast backwards, into blue-collar 2020s. Bias I liken to the Hunger Games. It's where women are selected by lottery to compete in this annual pageant in which the participants, called tributes, are forced to fight to the death in the public arena. The purpose of the Hunger Games is to maintain control of the workforce. Only we're not styled by Sinner for our campaigns, we're styled by our companies, and they're still dressing us in man pants. Circa 2010, I was at a safety shop trying on women's blue-collar workwear. It was available, making my selection, which was a relatively quick exercise, and I knew my size, there were limited styles. At the counter, I was informed that I was not permitted to select these style items on this company's account, that I could choose from a selected range, and that range was the same brand, but in men's clothing only. So I did what a good green tribute would do. I called HR. And I was told, and insert any company's name you like, that this is what is available under my contract. If I wanted other styles, I could purchase my own. However, I wouldn't be reimbursed if I chose outside of that on offer. In addition, and if it wasn't already the time for her to stop talking, no other women have an issue with clothing. Yeah? What other women? Righto. Thanks for your support. If you want me in man pants it is. Now, I don't want to speak for everyone here, but typically women have larger asses than they do have waists. And men's waists and asses, they tend to correlate. So it took me an hour longer to find something that I could wear, and I can tell you everything that fit over this ass needed a substantial belt round the waist. The leg holes for the shorts were so wide, I might as well have been wearing skirts to sight. And please do not forget to visualise those crutch vents in case my balls needed airing out. I turned up on site with my new clothes, having made a choice between fight for my and my fellow women's rights not to be discriminated against like a good tribute, or sell my principles to pay my mortgage. Are they just pants? The Hunger Games. Katniss Everdeen stood up for what she believed in was right, and she became a target. She became a target for those to take down, but she also became a target for those to look up to. Incredible pressure. The Hunger Games is about control, and control is maintained by pitting people against each other, making people believe there is a side to pick, and turning energy and focus towards that side. What's her problem with pants? There is no side to common decency, respect and equality, but bias provides platforms that creates sides. Bias hiring minorities. The practice is abused by companies who want to score better marks on their government tenders, who want to be awarded lucrative contracts and want to be seen to be taking the right side. But fundamentally, bias allows these companies to hide the reality of their organisation's current and continued poor records in equality. If a company has their propaganda in order, they've hired a woman for a key role, they've ticked the box on their application. There is no more focus on their commitment to the minority workforces. I say workforce, but I mean worker. What happens on site in construction and the rail industry? Bias, when used by companies, provides the vehicle which identifies strong women. It singles them out. It makes them a target for whatever some dickhead wants to object to. The problem is, there's only one woman and there's more than one dickhead. By way of example, and we'll bring you into the 2020s or close to the 2020s, bias when used by a company, with the marketing allure and tender opportunity that bias presented this one tier one company, a female production manager was hired for the largest government project this company was to be awarded that year. Despite the obvious disadvantage, male-dominated workforce, and she had boobs, she was, in my opinion, the best candidate for that job. 5 were interviewed and she got the job, and she went on to be one of the hardest workers on that project yet. In a minuted union meeting, a union member raised his displeasure that this appointment was made when they all agreed that their fellow union mate should have got this job. And woe is me, how unfair that was. The union then thought it was acceptable to raise this displeasure to the company's management. The management then decided to appease the union and hedge their bets by having the appointed production manager shadowed by a male union mentor, which she additionally reported to with KPIs more than what any other production manager had. What I can also tell you about what followed was that her production line was constantly sabotaged. She was constantly provided misinformation she had to keep validating. Her production teams periodically went on the go slow, and she was forced into high amounts of overtime to try and stay on top of overtime management, budget blowouts, and delayed production. The company further reacted, thinking to seek the support of the project manager to agree with them that she should then be replaced with the mentor, as clearly she did not have support of the team of the men on the ground. I told them to fuck off. That cost me personally and my family $20,000 because come performance review, no remuneration bonuses were paid out and COVID was cited as the reason. Later, a senior executive contacted me to advise that other managers were paid bonuses in fact, and that we should fight to be paid out. Fight with what? The infinite amount of energy we have in reserve, or the funds that we didn't receive for contract performance? A fight that would mean taking on not only a large tier 1 organisation, but also the largest union in Queensland. We're not fucking stupid. The abuse of bias is placing women in unsafe environments. Ultimately, we were presented with two options: stand and leave quietly and hope like hell we get a good reference for our time served, or we can leave in great fanfare of feminine support, pats on the back, go, you've been a good tribute standing up for women, but we're blacklisted and unemployable. We didn't ask for this, and we don't need it. What we need is to pay our mortgages and have job security. What we need is the shit to change. We need to not allow these companies to burn us out and exploit us through bias. Every woman that takes on a role in these industries does so thinking they are strong enough or good enough or solid enough to cope with the crap they know is there. But we're not. We're not, because we don't know until we get there how bad it can get until we're fully committed. We then judge ourselves for not being able to make a difference. We failed in our careers if we can't affect the change. We judge ourselves when we break down and we give in, because we should be strong. We're judged at home for not being able to just put our head down and ignore them because we've got bills to pay. And we're judged again when we don't put our heads up and stick up for our rights. And me, 25 years, I can tell you I'm fully fucked. I got a desk job and I got out. I judge myself now when I can no longer be inspiring to others. What do I say to a contracts administrator who says that they want to be a project manager, but now that I've seen how they treat women in those roles, I'm not interested in project management at all? Do I tell them there's a future because women get hired with bias and preferential treatment? I wouldn't even wish 10 years of relentless and unforgiving stress on anyone or their families. The only way we can really fight the underbelly picking us off one by one is to get rid of the ability for companies to abuse bias, uncloud the state of the industry. We need to stop putting women into these companies, get rid of hiring bias, set up a framework that judges the companies on their ability to attract women and keep women within their industry on merit. High women turnover, no preferential contractor treatment. Poor survey reviews, no preferential contractor treatment. Low salaries, and let's exclude the bonus calculation because you're not getting it, no preferential contractor treatment. Let the number of women hired in a company represent that company's actual commitment to change, not represent their commitment to their profits. Set up a sinking fund for women who need access to supportive financial services to enforce their contracts. If we continue to obscure reality with bias, we can't possibly get these organisations who should change to change. I'm going to leave you with part 3 of the Hunger Games script. By part 3, Katniss is tired. The jury believes she's mentally unfit and she's sent home to cope with her lingering PTSD. She often spends time recounting every kind of deed she has ever witnessed anyone do, and now that her career is over, concerned family members are wondering if she'll ever get over it. And it looks like I'm about to be replaced by another tribute, so thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I have never seen The Hunger Games and I feel like I'm already living it, so maybe I shouldn't. So I'd like to introduce Candice, the Global ERG Leader at KBR for the negative.
Already having to stand and stick with something that has been biasly made for somebody a lot taller. Right, so Christina gave us some pretty dire statistics, but the trend is upwards, so there is hope. Organisations that don't adapt, they die, and organisations know this. That's why there is an upwards trend in diversity hiring. We might hate the statistics, we might hate those targets, but they are in our favour. Never before have we seen more women being hired within our industries, more ethnic diversities, or as you call it, Trang, the diversity unicorn. I've not heard of this term, and I will have to try and drop that into conversation sometime with my SLT team. And we heard earlier about, from our opening statement, thank you, that unconscious bias also creates this limitation of your mind. And we can't get away from it. All of us have unconscious bias. We've all got this prediction machine in our mind. It creates logic. It's creating these shortcuts. And the only way that we can overcome it is to be aware of it and be intentional about the way we move forward. So I'll get into my opening statement in a moment, but I wanted to say that don't let anybody take your freedom. Don't let anybody take your power. This is how bias can work against us, by saying that you're not welcome here. And as Alia spoke about her experience, we can only win if we collaborate and not be competitive. Alia was able to forge her identity and say, I am who I am and I belong here. And I think that's a really defining, powerful moment for a lot of women in the room, to stand up and say, I belong. We heard a lot of Jennifer's painful experiences, funny, but painful. And I acknowledge that these painful experiences are really hard, but they evolve us. They shape us. We grow from these experiences. If we stood in that same position as Jennifer, as I will share with you shortly, our hearts and minds, they're shaped forever by these adversities. We change as people. We become better versions of ourselves, hopefully. And we acclimatise and we learn. We learn these basic survival skills. We push through brick walls, brick after brick. But for me, bias was an opportunity to forge my voice. Now, you push through these brick walls, right? You get through all of them. It is relentless, it is tiring, and as Alia said, it's exhausting. You get through all of that and you come to a mountain. You come to a bias mountain and you're surrounded by, as Jennifer said, a lot of dickheads. I'll say naysayers. You're surrounded by naysayers saying, you can't do it. Don't dare you. Step forward and climb that. There's no place for you on the top of the mountain. And some of the statistics are quite alarming and shocking. But how can you step forward? How can you stand there at the bottom of the mountain with everybody not cheering you on, but saying that you can't do it? How do you step forward? I thought today being on the negative was going to be quite hard, but I thought of some really good experiences that I could share with you today about how I took a step forward and how I climbed that mountain and I conquered it. The first painful experience, the first painful experience was an end of project celebration. It was with clients and with partners. We had done very well, so it was actually a good celebration. But one of my crew members thought it would be a perfect opportunity for him to step forward and sexually harass me. Now, I'm not going to go into the details, but I'll tell you, I felt really shocked, for one, that somebody would disrespect me in a way that And I didn't realise, I guess I wasn't seen as a professional, a side-by-side, somebody who was equal. That was the first moment that I had first experienced bias in the industry. After I got over my shock, I sort of felt super embarrassed, deeply ashamed, and a little bit angry. And I froze. I froze in the moment. Later, after I had, you fight or you flight, I took a bit of a flight response. I just said, got to get out of here, Candice. This is embarrassing. We're not going to let this go on. I left, and working through all of that emotion, I thought to myself, what am I going to do about this? How can I move on from this? The second emotion I felt after all the other ones was guilt. Weirdly, really guilty. I started doubting myself. I started thinking, maybe I shouldn't have gone. Maybe I shouldn't have been there in the first place. And it comes right back to that feeling of not belonging, that feeling that you get when you walk in the room and you're the only lady there. Now, naturally, as Jenny did, I sought HR guidance. Now, this is the disappointing part. It was not what she said, but what she didn't say. What she said was, boys will be boys. What she said was, that's the industry we're in, Candice. Wow. If that wasn't gender bias punching me in the face, I don't know what was. And I took a step back, because I could have been really angry about that. I could have quit. I could have just left and said, that's it, I've had enough. But I thought to myself, was toxic masculinity really an excuse for bad behaviour? Did I just get victim blamed from HR? Yes, I did. So I realised that. So I'm standing at the foot of this bias beast mountain, thinking, will I step forward? Thinking, I will not be silenced. Thinking, I will not let others be silenced. So this was bias. This was my opportunity to forge my voice, and I found it. I said, I won't be silenced, and I won't let others be silenced. Personally, this is very difficult. Trang mentioned it earlier, which was great, thank you. Segue into my next painful experience. Painful experience number 2, right? So sometimes the mountain that you conquer is yourself, actually, right? Because we all have unconscious biases. I came across this unconscious bias of gender, and how did I step forward with how could I step forward with all this emotional baggage of that experience that I'd just been through? I mean, I was still trying to move through the motions of that. And Asians, they're stereotyped as being quiet, submissive, hardworking, obedient, and you would never ever raise your voice to somebody who is older than you. And that's a cultural thing. So that's my own cultural bias. So that's something I had to overcome if I was to take this as my cause to not be silenced, my cause to not let others be silenced. And it just wasn't natural to stand up for myself at all. I'd grown up for so long not speaking out for others, not speaking out for myself, head down, work away, be that model minority. And it was me. I was living that stereotype. Why? Why was I living a stereotype? So after a bit of time, I managed to work myself into a mindset that just went past all of that guilt, all of that shame that I was feeling. And I thought to myself, well, I need to adapt if I'm going to survive. I need to adapt, I need to evolve, I need to outgrow the old version of me, the one that I had put myself into a box, the one that others had put me into a box. I had to outgrow that. I had to become a better version of me, so I broke my own mould. So I'm standing at the bottom of this mountain, right? This bias mountain. Did I step forward? Yes, because I remembered great leaders aren't tenacious. They're tenacious about something. Their commitment to a cause helps them look beyond obstacles and treat it as an opportunity. I forged my voice. I said, no, this is not good enough. This is not good enough for me nor anybody else at this company. I took steps to make sure that that wasn't going to happen to anyone else. I looked into our diversity and inclusion policies. I spoke with HR, I collaborated with them, I spoke with our senior managers. I no longer had to work with that person on my crew, thankfully. But, living at this intersection of gender, living at this fringe of the majority has given us opportunity to grow. It's given us opportunity to grow our resilience, our determination, and built upon the mountain of hope and belief in a better future for all. I can say that I broke through bias to pave a path of possibility, and now I ask you, how can you create opportunity to forge your own voice? One voice can make a difference, as Jennifer says. It can be tiring, but many voices can make change. Thanks.
Thank you, Candice, for sharing such a monumentous moment in your life. That safeness that I hope that we create at WEDAC is really appreciated. So our next speaker is Sophie Litherland, Associate Planner at Willow Tree Planning.
Thank you. Just show of hands, who has kids? Quite a lot. It's good to see. So I've been in the industry for about 15 years. I have 2 kids. Yes, they were planned. No, they weren't accidents. Yes, I did plan to have children young in my career. And today I'm very fortunate to work with a group of women who respect this and also have kids. My career started, like many planners, in government, where the male dominance was strong. Why that was the case became evident as my time in the organisation went on. There was a sense of authority across the male leadership team, and they held that authority over us. When it came my time to have children, I went on maternity leave. It was great, government leave, perfect. I came back and asked for my position back, but did ask for part-time. I was told that wasn't an option, being a planner. You must work full-time. For that result, I resigned because I wasn't prepared to have that commitment with a young child. She was only 5 months old, and that just was not going to work. As part of my search for a new role, I was faced with questions such as, are you having more children? When will you have these children? How do you intend to work in the office for 12 hours a day till 7 p.m, attend networking events, business development, go out drinking with the men, with the child? I was even told that I would need to be prepared to break promises to my family to allow my career to progress. This was only half of the unrealistic expectations put on me, and hence my career did stall. Part of me accepted this as I wanted desperately for my career to continue. We had a mortgage, and I wanted and needed to work. But I was constantly having to choose between my family and my career. Even once being told in the performance review that I needed to put my work before my children and my family, and maybe I should get some help, paid help. Women, no matter how mad that we see it, we are the default caregiver, the default admin, the minute taker. Even in my house, where my husband does share the load of the household responsibilities, society still looks to me for communication, calls from the school, planning of playdates with the children, organising sport. While main childcare duties stereotypically fall on the women, the COVID-19 pandemic exposed just how much time women spend each day on caring for children compared to their male counterparts. In fact, in 2020, women took on 173 additional hours of unpaid childcare due to the closure of schools, childcare centres, kindies, compared to 59 additional hours for men. Shockingly or not, a survey revealed 41% of working mothers felt that they had to hide their caregiving struggles from their employer for fear of being fired. So what happens when you mix a global pandemic, a full workload, childcare and household responsibilities, burnout and guilt? No one had planned to parent during a global pandemic. No one had planned for lockdowns, school closures. We knew what we were getting into when we had kids. Everyone knows it's hard, there's struggles, there's childcare fees. But we worked through this with men doubting our abilities. Some of us timed pregnancy with career opportunities, calculating how much time we would need off and how much leave we would have, which wasn't too much for our employee. But for what happens when childcare and schools close, cities go into lockdown, and we're required to work from home, be a mum, and keep the Teams meetings going with a male-dominated field, with the kids in the background begging for attention and asking for constant snacks. The urgency was real in my house. I was working long hours, I was constantly under the pump, and I felt guilty constantly that I wasn't either with my office or with my kids. For many, the pandemic broke us. There's been the mass resignation, as we've seen in the media, LinkedIn, and career changes. Many people have decided, go and do something else, go and do something that's more flexible. For me, the global pandemic had a bright side. It did make employees realise that we can work from home, we can be adaptable, we are flexible, men and women, not just mums, but everyone. This does mean I can drop my kids at school some days. I can attend my daughter's first swimming carnival. Yes, I need to work early or late, but I am accountable for my time, and my kids appreciate that. I hope that I'm going to use my own leadership role to influence others and encourage women and mums and dads to take a career and have a family, and for employees to be adaptable. But let's be honest, I'm a rarity. And it's taken the global pandemic, 15 years of searching for an employer that gets me. I also now work for quite a small company compared to government that has the ability to offer some equality and flexibility. The tier 1 contractors that my counterparts have dealt with, they're not going anywhere. They're built on money and they're built on men. Yes, that brick wall can definitely be broken. But should this be a result of being doubted or having to do something that you're not prepared to do? Why are we having to fight within a system that was created by men? My challenge to both myself and you is to keep the conversation alive. Ensure your own organisation is reporting on its gender pay gap. Campaign for better maternity leaves and paternity. Dads should have a right to take some leave. Allow for flexibility, not just for mums, but dads. Women can have careers, mums can have careers, and every company, no matter how big or small, needs to implement changes that others will follow. While many companies today have taken these steps, there is much more that can be done to overcome the unconscious gender bias to truly give women and men an equal chance to advance. We all have a voice, and now's the time to use it. And as Jennifer said, let's get past the fluff and the propaganda and break that bias.
Thank you, Sophie. Our next speaker will be Shireen Hoffman on the negative side.
I'd like to start by acknowledging all your stories, especially the stories in the affirmative, and also to acknowledge that, yes, I do believe that bias does live in the workplace, but we have bias in all aspects of our life, not just the workplace. However, because I'm speaking in the negative, I'm going to look at the positive side of things. I'm going to try and speak about opportunities as well as empower you, especially the younger ones among you. Globally, the share of women in senior management is increasing. In 2021, the proportion of women in senior management roles has risen to 31%, to 31%, the highest number ever recorded. As a comparison, in 2004, this figure was only 19%. How are we faring in Australia? We're actually doing better. According to the 2021 data figures from the Australian government's Workplace Gender Equality Agency, for the first time, women comprise more than 41% of managers. I'll repeat that, 41%. So this is 2 in 5 of all managers in Australia are women. However, the higher we go up the corporate ladder, we see fewer women. According to the figures from WGEA, women account for less than 1% of CEOs, so that's less than 20% of CEOs, and 1 in 3 board members, even though we make up 50% of the workforce. Having women in leadership positions has also shown a significant difference in an organisation's profitability and market share. Once again, WGEA, which is an Australian government data agency, has found that the appointment of female CEOs has led to a 5% increase in the value of Australian ASX listed companies. Women are natural leaders. The pandemic as well has caused a fundamental shift in workplace practices, forcing millions of workers worldwide to work remotely, as well as we're seeing now in hybrid working environments. So this shift, we hope, will have positive repercussions for women in business and their prospects into the coming years. So with the data that I've shared, I believe that we are slowly converting that age-old adage of ladies first to women on top. This is not as controversial as it sounds. This is about seizing opportunities and breaking through the gender bias. Let's champion and fight for the rise of female, LGBTQ, as well as ethnically diverse leaders. My story is about, and I have been told I need to rush through my story because we're going over time, so I will try and collate quickly for you, but my story is about the glass ceiling as well as the maternal wall, which Sophie just spoke about, and the opportunities that I created for myself by breaking through those barriers. I'm a proud migrant. After my business management degree, I came to Australia to study design, and I started my first role as an interior designer and project manager. At the age of 27, I was made an associate director in that local Brisbane firm and was running the design team as well as leading the business development of retail and commercial interiors. My promotion to associate director was through sheer determination and a lot of hard work. I had a successful 4 years in this role, at which stage I got married and started contemplating starting a family. Within 4 months of getting married, I was called into a meeting with the directors of the company and was told that they could no longer afford to keep me and that I should start my own business. My first reaction was, if I was a male, how different would this conversation be? If I was a male and considered to be married, settled, as they say, would I have climbed the ladder to perhaps a director or a partnership role within that firm? Just in recognition of the contribution as well as the volume of work I was bringing into the firm at the time. But do you know what I did? I took their advice. I embraced that idea and I started Studio I Design, a company that I ran for 11 years. Like a lot of women, I did have children at the prime of my career, but because I had my own business, I escaped that so-called maternal wall where so many careers come to a temporary or permanent halt. This situation also afforded me opportunities to have male and female associates in the business who were either recent graduates or who were raising children of their own. The main point being we all worked flexibly. Having my own children having children as well as running a business, I was able to have flexibility because I was my own boss. And of course, there were obstacles. There were a lot of obstacles in the way. I did have support, but the advantages did surpass the disadvantages. I was able to be there for my children because I worked for myself. I was able to actually put time into their upbringings, but also be able to travel and make my own rules and not answer to anyone. And this was empowering. I also, at that time, started a side hustle assisting my mother in her business. I upskilled and built an online store with 90 skincare products. More empowerment. Suddenly I found myself directing 2 companies, and this would not have been possible without the gender bias of my previous employer. So thank you to them. At the 11-year mark, when my youngest started school, I realized I missed the collaboration as well as the hustle and bustle of being in a busy design studio, and decided to come back into the workforce in 2017, a journey that has led me to my current role at Thomson Adset. Thomson Adset Architecture just turned 50 last year, and for the first time in that 50 years, it was announced on International Women's Day that we have a female who has joined our board. In closing, I would like to encourage you to convert obstacles into opportunities. Also, keep supporting, empowering, and mentoring the women around you. Communicate your career goals to your managers so you can formulate strategies and opportunities as well as develop the skills that you're lacking. Also, let's call out that girls' culture in our design and construction industry. Let's view the glass ceiling more as a maze where we have obstacles, twists and turns and dead ends, but there is a way out. We can get out and we can overcome. My question to you in closing is, how are you going to forge your career evolution? Thank you.
Thank you, Shireen. During our briefing for our speakers, the only thing we told them was to be real and to be raw. And as we all know, the journey towards gender equality is grey. We wanted to show all the shades of grey that can happen. And please give a round of applause to all of our panelists, speakers. To determine a winner, we're going to go by loudest applause, the most scientific method known to man. Please, if you agree with the negative, please. Or if you agree with the affirmative, please. And I believe, from what I can hear, that the winner is no one, because biases are horrible and we should question them why. But everyone's a winner.
Thank you so much to our amazing panel. One more round of applause. So we're running a little bit over time, so I'll just invite Kate to the stage. Kate is our amazing National Events Coordinator who's just signed up with us, as well as Ops Manager, who's here to talk about memberships today.
Morning, everybody. Thank you so much for choosing WIDAC as your platform of choice for International Women's Day. So nice to see so many familiar faces, so we'll keep this really brief. Those of you who have come as a guest today, I hope that you've got lots of takeaways. I know I've carried the highs and lows of this fabulous panel, and a lot resonated with me. If you feel that there's people in this room that you want to get to know better and you want to join us more, we have loads of membership options available. We're not gender biased. As you can see from the wonderful men as well in the room today, we know you don't all piss on the toilet seat. You're here to raise up your female companions. So please, I won't keep you. Always happy for a coffee post-event, a wine, or come and talk to me after the event about the package that might be best for you to get the most out of this platform so you can come up and tell your story. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Now I'll bring Althea Papensack, our National Director here, to do the amazing Lucky Door Prize. So Althea, could you make your way to the stage? Do you need the buzzers?
No, that's all right. Okay, hi everyone, it's great to see you all. We've had nearly 700 attendees to our International Women's Day events across Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne this week, which is just phenomenal. You might have seen me sneak in right at the last minute today, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to say a huge thank you to my team. I've spent the last week cleaning up after the floods affected our home, so it's been a week, but my team literally just have absolutely blown me away. I've been offline, filling up skip bins and cleaning out mud, and I honestly have not even thought about, is everything under control? Because I know it is. So much thank you to all of my team. Hands up if you were impacted by the floods. Yeah, hands up if you still don't have power back on. Hands up if you're still living with your in-laws. It's been a week. All right, I hope that everyone can even just take this kind of moment to think about how you could help this weekend. There's still so many people who need help with cleanup. There's a lot that you could do to donate. So I hope that the wonderful Brisbane community can kind of rally around those that need it at the moment. We can all get through it together. Okay, so we're going to do a game show. It's called Winning with WIDAC. I was supposed to bring the buzzers. I forgot they're at home. But anyway, we're gonna figure out a different way to do that. So I'm going to draw 2 cards out, and then can those 2 people come up on stage, and we're going to do a little game show. It's going to be great. I just thought let's spin it up. Okay, Philippa Dodd. How do you feel about it? This is going to be like Ellen, but better. Or maybe I shouldn't, that's probably a bit ambitious. Philippa Dodd, are you here? Do you want to participate? Come on up, Philippa, woo! And who have we got? Oh. Kerry, Zachary, is that what that says? Kerry Zachary? Did I make that up? Yes, okay, we've got Kerry. Come on up, Kerry. Woo! Literally doing this on the fly. I have made some questions up and taken some of yours, so great. It's going to be, what do we reckon? We're literally making this up as we go. Best of 5. Are we going to use the buzzers, or are we, come on up, get up here. No, this is all, no, it's great. It's not awful, it's great. Come on, up you come. It's not awful, it's great. It's going to be great.
Right, okay.
So you can scream, what do you reckon? Scream out your name or push your buzzer. How loud's this buzzer? Okay. Okay, yep. See, this is what the girls do. They test it. Turn it up, okay. Or maybe just scream out. Anyway, we'll figure it out. It'll all just flow, I'm sure. Okay, question 1. It's best of 5. And you take out an amazing prize if you're the winner. Okay. What year was WIDAC founded?
2005?
Oh, that's so nice of you, but no, thank you, no. Okay, so that was a dud. All right, here's a good one. Yeah. Oh, closer, but no. It was 2016. Fun fact. We're 5 years old, remember? We just had a 5-year birthday. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Round two. How many kids does Kim Kardashian have? Yes.
2.
No.
Damn it!
Yes! Okay. Philippa's in the lead. All right. Question 3. You all have this amazing Dulux dog on your seat this morning. Dash, the original Dulux dog, starred in the first Dulux advertising campaign back in 1961. What breed is the Dulux dog?
I got it.
Okay, go.
It's that white fluffy dog. It's like a sheepdog.
Sheepdog.
Is
it a
white
sheepdog?
fluffy one, the big white fluffy one.
It's a sheepdog. You got it. Okay, right. And we'll do one more, and the winner of this one takes it out. Okay. Australia's youngest billionaire, Melanie Perkins, founded digital graphics business Canva. It's very impressive, isn't it? With her fiancé in 2014. Miss Perkins started her first business selling handmade scarves and soaps at markets throughout Perth at what age? 13, 14 or 15?
15.
No. Philippa, for the win.
15.
She just said 15.
13.
Philippa got in there with 14. Philippa, you are our winner. Congratulations. Thank you, darling. Thanks, Kerry. Thank you. We've got a prize for you. Oh, you get a prize too. Everyone gets a prize. Thank you. All right, I think that's pretty much it. Am I doing the thank yous? Okay, great. I'll just do the thank yous. Did everyone have a good time? Yeah? All right, big round of applause for my whole team, all of our speakers. Hands up if you'd love to do that fun game show for the next Lucky Door prize. That was good, hey? Yeah, it was really good. I think we need to make sure that we thank some of the most important people who've made this morning possible. Autex, who are our national gold sponsor, they always show out in force. Vaughan and everyone, thank you, beautiful, handsome team. Our national silver sponsor, Shape, they've been there since the beginning, along with CGC, who are our national silver sponsor as well. Bluebeam are our national silver sponsor, soon to become gold. Ooh, very exciting. Thank you to Bluebeam. You guys are such a big supporter, very exciting. And Cova, who are our national silver sponsor and the most wonderful people. So thank you to Cova. Woohoo! And we've had some new sponsors come on board, which is really great. Lloyd Group, they're wonderful. They're coming on to make sure that all of our events happen over the next year. So welcome, Lloyd Group. It's really good to have you. Thank you for your support. And we spoke this morning about mentoring program that's only made possible because of OZCO. They are the most wonderful group of people. Thank you so much to OZCO. Thank you, thank you, thank you. FDC, who are our education scholarship sponsor, and there's some big things happening there as well. Thank you, FDC. Polytech, our national digital sponsor, who made all of you entertained throughout, the COVID shutdown when we were all online. That was all thanks to Polytech. And TTM, our Leaders of Tomorrow sponsor, they've been very patient. We had a whole schools program planned with them that got put on hold because of the germs. So we're going back to the schools, which is really exciting. So TTM, thank you. Our amazing event partner, you were great this morning, Sophie, Willow Tree Planning. Woo! Thank you. Our panellists, Sophie, Jennifer, Christina, Candice, Elia, and Shireen. You guys are amazing. And everyone who is here today.